Hello girls and boys, thanks for tuning in and welcome to another video. Today I'm featuring the pan-European tier 10 destroyer Ragnar on the map North in the Domination game mode, but before we start I'd like to say thank you so much to all my dear subscribers. My channel exceeded the 1000 sub mark recently and this truly means a lot to me. To celebrate and to express my gratitude at least a little bit, I'm raffling off 3 Santa containers of each size, so this means 3 mega gift containers, 3 big gift containers and 3 regular containers. To participate in the raffle, all you need to do is to leave a comment with the words ho ho ho, your server region and your in-game name under the video and you will be good to go. I don't have an A or Asia account yet, but I'm sure we'll find a solution in case one of the winners doesn't have an EU account either. Anyway, let's talk about my commander build and upgrades for Ragnar. I would like to keep this section brief, but I'm afraid there's so much to say about possible Ragnar builds that you could make a whole video about this topic alone. So let me address at least a few points. First off, I don't think the perfect Ragnar build exists. Some people don't take Superintendent or Survivability Expert. I've seen people take IFHE to be able to penetrate the plating of some BBs. There are many more or less viable builds out there, but what they all have in common is that you always feel like you're missing out on something. Personally, I'm running Main Battery and AA Expert instead of Concealment Expert, which indicates that this build revolves around farming battleships and cruisers, but you might be wondering why I don't take Fearless Brawler then. So my reasoning behind this is that most builds with Fearless Brawler sacrifice Main Battery and AA Specialist, formerly known as BFT, plus another unnecessary 1-point skill for it. However, I really don't like that you lose 10% of your DPM whenever you're utilizing cover like islands or fire from behind a smokescreen. Now obviously Ragnar is more of an open water gunboat, so it's debatable if it's worth giving up 5% DPM for the few occasions where you don't sit in the open and mash your W and S keys, but I like it the way it is, and as a little bonus there are even enough points left for Demolition Expert. I think the leaderboard competing power farmers either give up SI or SE plus another point to include Fearless Brawler in their builds for maximum DPM, but so far I'm doing pretty well, even though I have to admit my insistence to keep the nerfed version of BFT in most of my DD builds is kind of a nostalgia thing, because I can't get over the fact that it got nerfed by 50% in the course of the commander rework while still costing 3 points. So we already got our first kill. After hesitating for a little while, I decided to check out the Charlie cap, in spite of my terrible concealment, because if another DD shows up, you can usually turn the fight into a 1 versus 1 if you get close enough to the big island next to the cap, as long as no enemies are on the 9 and 10 line. Admittedly, that engagement was pretty dangerous because Harugumo has way better DPM than Ragnar, and because IGN gunboats benefit from improved HE penetration, she can pen my 25mm side plating, which is normally a big advantage for Ragnar in DD engagements, even though she only has 4-inch guns. She also could have torped me while I was beached, so all in all that fight could have ended way worse for me, but in the end we got away with a black eye. Generally speaking, I don't recommend to contest caps early on with Ragnar. She's just way too clumsy, can be seen from the moon, even with CE, and her DPM is really not that special either, so if you walk into a cap at the beginning of the game, you might end up lucky and kill a potential enemy DD there, but you're going to pay with a lot of hit points for it, and that's essentially never worth it in the long run. Now, killing the Haru was nice, but to be useful again, I needed to create a lot of distance to the Alaska and the Stalingrad that are still close to Charlie. Capturing it was out of the question with them being around. Plus, there's a double Bismarck division walking down the 9 and 10 line, and only my friend Phil is in a position to stall their push at the moment. So I'm basically going back into our spawn and will resort to what Ragnar does best, long-range HE spam. It's already shaping up to be a weird match with the 2 Bismarcks on the 10 line on the one hand and our 2 Pommerns pushing into the channel between Bravo and Charlie on the other hand. To be honest with you, I'm not really questioning Phil's ability to deal with 2 Bismarcks on his own. In his Des Moines, he should have a field day with them as long as he doesn't get stuck in their secondary range. In fact, I'm worrying about my own damage numbers. The enemy Stalingrad seems to be a good shot, so I don't want to mess around with her too much. But apart from the cruisers at Charlie and the 2 German BBs, there are really no other targets in sight. Hopefully the Pommern push will force the Stalin to back up a bit, because as long as she's so close to the cap, I don't feel comfortable gunboating the Bismarcks. I don't want to be too cynical here, but their in-game names, Hasi69 and Dreckhäcksle, along with their positioning, tell you everything you need to know about them in terms of player skills, so I knew from the get-go that going out of my way to farm them would be a big waste of time in regard to match influence, but there weren't really any other options to extract some damage from, apart from maybe going to the other flank. But as of now, the match seems to be relatively even, and as long as our other flank doesn't collapse, I think we can take our time and have a bit of fun with the Bismarcks. As for the other 2 German BBs on our side, I really don't understand this behavior. Pommern number 1 is already dead. Why exactly are German BB players always in a hurry and try to force kind of a decisive engagement in the first few minutes of the game? Is it maybe because these ships mostly attract older players and they only have like 10 minutes per game before their wife calls them for dinner, or they need to go to the bathroom or something? I really genuinely don't understand. If you have your own theory, feel free to leave it in the comments. You can see that I'm still more concerned about the Stalingrad than the Bismarcks, although she's farther away. Luckily, she's still busy dealing with Pommern number 2, but I'm not in the mood to take my chances, so I turned around to make sure I'm pointing away from the Stalingrad while shooting at the German BBs. It's also evident that Ragnar has very accurate guns. I did shatter an awful lot of shells on the belt there. In fact, her guns are so accurate that if your aim sucks like mine, you will really notice it, because there's not a lot of dispersion to help you out with poorly aimed salvos. I think that stray BB shell that managed to citadel you in spite of your perfect evasive maneuver happened to all of us, and the Ragnar experience couldn't be more different. Now, 1 Bismarck is almost dealt with. However, if we take a look at the minimap, our Iowa doesn't look like she's having a good time, and I'm pretty sure the Richelieu behind her isn't long for this world either, so it's about time that we finally get rid of both Bismarcks, because all things considered, they have been occupying us for far too long. I'm using my engine boost here not because I need to dodge any shells, but because I want to go back to Charlie as fast as possible, and you won't see me slowing down anytime soon. Ragnar's engine boosts are few and precious, and usually you want to keep them for situations where you need to dodge incoming fire, and not just for traveling, but I felt like the situation was dire enough to justify using it just to get faster to the cap. Oh, by the way, I just noticed that the rudder display is stuck in the replay. I hope it's not too distracting. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do to fix it. Anyway, with both Bismarcks gone, my friend Phil can finally turn around. I'm sure farming them was a lot of fun, but unfortunately a good portion of our team evaporated in the meantime. Now it's a 6 versus 7, though the good news is that the second Pommern managed to take the Stalingrad with her in her watery grave, so at least there's nothing holding me back from taking Charlie. It looks like our CV was also caught off guard by the push at Alpha. With a little bit of map awareness, the Parseval should be far more to the east by now. But these little mistakes by your teammates always keep things interesting, don't you think? Phil and me were not talking on Discord or anywhere else, so you can see all our tactical considerations in the in-game chat. The plan is that I take C and kill the Alaska while he deals with the advancing enemies in our spawn. Considering the score and our deficit in ships, it doesn't look too good at the moment, but I feel like we can still come back from this. I noticed that the Alaska was shooting at our Shima, so naturally I opened up on the American cruiser in the hope of drawing some attention away from our Japanese friend. The Alaska keeps shooting at our Shima though, which is of course nice because then I don't have to worry about dodging. If two DDs were about to capture a zone and fired at me, I would probably keep altering my targets and try to reset both of them. The Alaska did get some consistent hits on the Shima, but I'm the one holding all the capturing progress, and by now it's probably too late to reset me. Let's see if she can arc her last salvo over the island before disappearing. Yes, she can, and she scores 2 hits, but we secure the cap, which my team so desperately needed regardless. The cap is worthless though if we don't protect it from the Alaska, so we have to stay in the vicinity and make sure that she doesn't take it back. Alaska and Puerto Rico are the 2 American cruisers that have the hardest time dealing with the Ragnar. Their poor concealment and sheer size, battleship fire duration and long shell travel time make it really hard for them to defend themselves, so we are gonna abuse that fact and keep the Alaska at a comfortable distance, where she can't go dark and struggles to hit us consistently. Of course, as soon as I complained to Phil about my terrible luck with fires, we immediately got 2 perma-fires. The fires will probably run out before she dies, but due to the damage she has already taken and considering that she's still pushing towards us, her fate should be sealed in a few seconds. In the meantime, our Shimakaze ran into the enemy Shima in the channel between Bravo and Charlie. Let's see what happens. Our Shima gets the kill, but unfortunately it's a trade. So it remains that we are lagging behind on the ships, but more importantly on the points. The clock is ticking down relentlessly, and while technically there are still about 8 minutes left to play, we may run out of time before we are able to kill enough ships or regain control of the capture zones. While the enemy Sayotland commits suicide by running into our Neptune for some reason, let us change the perspective here and observe Phil in his Des Moines for a little bit. Just a short moment ago there were 2 destroyers presumably right next to him. The Sayotland is gone now, but we don't know yet where the Merca is. And because the FDG is still pushing him, it's understandable that Phil put it in reverse so as not to get caught in a crossfire of secondary battery barrage and torpedoes. Our Neptune is dead, but so is the FDG, and I'm sure you've already noticed the Merca on the minimap. That's a very, let's say, bold choice to open up on a Des Moines at around 8 kilometers. Merca does not have the pen to Citadel at Des Moines at that range, and Phil quickly turns towards her so she doesn't get to shoot his side. And on top of that, now she's laying down a smoke screen, because what could ever go wrong here? It's just hilarious, but in case you ever get into a similar situation, Merca can Citadel at Des Moines at a distance below 6 kilometers, which is going to be tricky considering her concealment. But whatever you do, don't follow the example of that guy. Phil's Hydro is on cooldown. Let's hope he manages to dodge both sets of Merca's torpedoes. The enemy CV was also striking him, but it looks like we're good and Phil evaded every single top thrown at him. That was quite a roller coaster of events in a few minutes, so now it's just the 2 of us versus the enemy carrier. If none of us dies, there should be enough time to capture Alpha and Bravo. Maybe we can even catch the CV. Personally, I haven't played Pobeda yet, but I feel like she's too dependent upon broadsides, because unlike Shukaku or Enterprise, all her squadrons require the enemy to be basically at the perpendicular angle to deal the highest amount of damage, and because Phil and me have nothing else to worry about, she's probably going to have a rough time dealing meaningful damage to us. Chkalov, or however she's pronounced, the Soviet premium counterpart with her HE bombs that are dropped in a circular reticle and her torpedo bombers, which are able to create a very tight spread of torps, would be far more dangerous in this regard. Oh, look who we found! Oh no. Well, anyway, I want to say something about Ragnar's AA. She has really good AA. Her long-range DPS is a joke, although it's nice that the aura already starts at 6.9 kilometers, but her medium-range AA is the strongest of all tier 10 destroyers. It's even better than Halland's with active defensive fire. The only downside is that it starts at 4 kilometers, which is 0.2 kilometers less than your detectability range by air if you are playing without CE, which of course you should. So you might have noticed that the presence of the Pobeda caught my script a little bit off guard, but of course I was even more surprised to see her in the actual game. I remember that I was contemplating whether I should sit in the cap to secure it or just run through it as fast as possible and chase the enemy CV. In the end, I decided to take the cap first because it gives us effectively more time to hunt down the carrier. And although Pobeda is, I believe, the second fastest tier 8 CV after Shokaku, she's not that far away and we should be able to catch her in time in spite of our little detour. I've used my last heal, but with about 12k hit points we have plenty of health left to tank the attacking aircraft, as long as we don't present our broadside to the squadrons. Again, I haven't played Pobeda myself, but I reckon the lengthy preparation time before the planes actually attack makes it really frustrating to deal with DDs that keep their AA off until they are detected, even though Ragnar's air detectability is really bad. As expected, the CV couldn't make up enough ground to slip away from us. Proper carrier positioning seems to be a real challenge for most players, and Russian CVs make it even more difficult because of their slow planes. You want to be close to the action to minimize flight time, but not so close that you are putting your own hull at risk. Not that it would have made a difference in this case with her rapidly suiciding teammates. There wasn't much the Pobeda could have done to avert defeat. Even if she had gone to A1, I don't think she would have been able to kill me. And even if she had managed to kill me by that point, we would have held all 3 objectives and made up a lot of points, and in the end she would still have had to kill Phil to win. At least that's what I think. Super Unicum CV players may be shaking their heads violently right now, but they don't really fit into my target audience anyway. Now the only remaining question is who's gonna get the kill? Is it Phil or me? AP wasn't really working, HE seems to be the better choice, and yes, the kill is ours. Interesting game. A lot of useless achievements, I don't even know their names. The only one I can remember is Brothers in Arms. Under normal circumstances I only would have gotten first blood and that's it. So yeah, I think their purpose is to make you feel good when you go seal clubbing with your friends. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Don't forget the giveaway. I hope you enjoyed the video. Merry Christmas, relaxing holidays to all of you, and I hope to catch you next time. Take care. Hello girls and boys, thanks for tuning in and welcome to another video. Hello. Anyway, with both this that was quite a roller coaster. All her squadrons require the enemy to be basically at her